Welcome back to another build video. This is a build video of the car showroom, and it's a 1/24 scale model by Squadron products. And here I'm pulling out the pieces. There aren't many pieces, it's fairly simple. It's a resin base, and I wanted to spray the edges black, and ended up spraying the whole thing black. It didn't actually take too long. I was hoping to add some texture or substance really to the color, and that's why I did it black. While that's drying, I then cut off the bases off the resin poles. You have to be very careful when you're doing this because you can easily snap these poles, and I did actually snap one of them. But I'm just using a regular saw, miniature model saw. Something that's important to do is to actually dip these in water while you're cutting them. It helps to minimize the amount of dust. I sanded the base to make sure that it was level and was going to stick at a funny angle. So finally I just put the nail file down and sanded it this way, and this actually worked out very well. Next step was to prime and paint the poles that were going to hold up the chain, and I did this with the Vallejo black primer. I wanted to have the middle of the pole be black, and then the upper and lower portions be gold brass color, and that always comes out best when you have a very dark shading underneath. So that's now drying, and now I went to go and tape off the edges that I wanted to keep black. I'm going to paint the middle red, but as you can see here, I didn't let the paint dry quite enough. So now that's all taped off with masking tape, and I'm spray painting this red, and this is just with a regular Tamiya red color. I initially tried a flat red, and I didn't like the color. It really was too dark with the dark background. So then I switched to the gloss red, which ended up looking a little better. And so here you can see I'm spray painting it. You have to make sure that you spray paint it from different angles because it has these little, what are supposed to be carpet fibers. They're all sticking up, and so you get these little shadows behind. So I did paint it with multiple coats in all four different angles. And at the end then I was able to take off the masking tape, and I was pretty happy with that masking tape job. But there were a few spots that needed to be painted where it had run through, and it didn't take long at all. Ultimately though, I wasn't really happy with the faux carpet in the middle, and so I ended up doing something different. Now I'm going to move on to the putting the gold on there, and this is just masking off the pole, which I wanted to keep black. And here you can see I'm using brass. This is Vallejo brass, and it definitely looks much better if you put it on a black base or undercoat. So spraying at this angle, and then from the back part, and then I flip it around and I do the other side. So now I'm taking off the putty, and then I have to also remove the masking tape. This masking tape ended up being quite a pain to get off. It ended up sticking to itself very well, so I just cut it off with a pair of scissors and then unwrapped it as best as I could. As you can see, this was quite frustrating because it kept sticking one layer after another. I really should have just done one layer instead of just wrapping it around. So once I got all the extra glue off from that tape, then I wanted to set it out to be in the correct place where I was going to put the chain on and have the correct length. And I tried to put the chain on those little hooks, but as you can see I really had a difficult time. Here I managed to get one on, and then it fell off immediately. It's too wide and the gap isn't large enough behind that hook. Despite multiple attempts to try and get this on, it really was a challenge. So I finally got one of them on, and as you can see, it didn't hold it very well. It was not going to stand on its own. So I did trim off some of the inside of the little hook there, and then also did the sides. And you have to be very careful, because if you snap this, there's no ways to repair that. It's going to be extremely difficult. So once that's done, then I tried to put the hook back on the metal chain again. I did end up using a pair of tweezers to try and squeeze it over the top of it, and finally got one of them to go over. But the chain ended up being quite heavy, and they don't stand up on their own, so you will have to glue them. Now I'm looking for the middle, so I divided them by 2 and found a place to hook in the middle section. And once again, I had to do that for all of them to trim off the extra little part of that hook. So as you can see, it really did not hold up, and so I decided I am going to have to glue it for it to be able to stand in and hold it. Here I am just touching up with the brass, the areas that I'd cut off. And now I'm back to the carpeted area, and I decided I was going to try and seal it in. So this is just a matte acrylic clear. And once that was dried, I then used super glue. And I cut off a piece of sprue, which I could then use to measure to make sure that they're equidistant from the corner. And that worked out quite well. I could then super glue all the other ones using the same piece of sprue. It had a little hook on the bottom that I could then measure the same distance each time. So this is the edge, or the corner one, and then used a ruler to be able to line up the other two, and also to measure to make sure I was equidistant. So here you can see where that was going to go, and once again using the same piece of sprue, that enables me to make sure that it's in the right place. So super glue worked quite well and held it very nicely. Once I trimmed these little hooks, they actually did slip on pretty easily. The middle chain did, and you can see how easily that goes on, but they just don't work very well right out of the box. So next step was to put the chain on, and I wanted to make sure that the chain was hanging in the same height with each section. And so that took a little bit of adjusting here and there, but you can see I'm still struggling to get that one chain on the hook again. Now here you can see on the hook I'm putting some super glue, and that was just to make sure the chain didn't fall off. It did fall off several times, and so that's why I decided to glue it. I put a little too much glue on that one hook, and so I removed it with that toothpick. But it has held on very nicely since then. So I did not like the final color and texture of that sort of fake carpet that they had, and so I decided I was going to do some red flocking instead. So here this is white PVA glue. It's mixed 50-50 with water and then painted on. Make sure you don't get it on the black or the edges, because then you will get the flocking on there as well. So I painted the entire surface with this white glue and water mixture, and you can see there it is the matte Mod Podge. Now once that was done, I then did the red flocking. I used a lot of flocking because I didn't want to run out, so I put a lot of flocking inside this little cardboard container and did it from all different angles until I was satisfied that it was completely covered. And the excess, I just typically will recollect and reuse again later, especially if the surface is clean where you're collecting it. But as you can see, I did a lot of flocking, and I was much happier with this color. It was brighter, and it looked like carpet rather than this sort of fake carpet that was part of the resin mold. Once that was all freed up, I then cleaned up the edges, and here are the final pictures.